Hello everyone, today we are going to be looking at Spotfire 7's new recommendation engine. It's a great feature that lets you pull in data and just click a few pieces of data, some of your columns, and it will go ahead and populate the types of visualizations that it thinks you should be using. To start, we got to get some data, and in this example we're going to be looking at the Ireland Data Bank. It's a service of a bunch of public data and expenditures that the government of Ireland makes available for all of its citizens and anyone else who just wants to play with their data. Here we have some nice time series data going back maybe a decade or two and putting it into different groups. I just copied and pasted this data into an Excel sheet, did some data cleaning here and there, and we're just going to go ahead and pull it into Spotfire 7. As usual, we just add a data table. We're going to add a file, and we have my Excel sheet that I put together, net public expenditures. You'll see that it doesn't identify the columns for some reason. I don't know, it's something about this data set where I copy and paste it, so I just say this is a name row, refresh, and it'll ignore that column 1 nonsense. We just hit OK. And one of the things you also noticed, if we look at our original data set, it's in that awful format where each column is a year. Now, most of us who have used any business intelligence or any analysis tools whatsoever, we know that these long data sets become a real nuisance when we have to add columns over and over again. So I'm going to go ahead and use the unpivot option that Spotfire gives in data transformations. This is a feature that Spotfire's had for a long time. It works really well for handling data in this regard. I think it was designed originally for working with BI databases because they tend to be structured in this matter. But all we have to do is just say the columns that we want to pass through, so basically which ones give us our names, and then which ones we want to transform from wide into long. In this case, we're taking each one of those years, and we're going to make it our year column. And let's change this into an integer so that it's nice and ordinal. If this was in a date format, we could make it a date, but since it's just the year, sometimes that can cause a few problems, so we're just going to stick it with an integer, and we know it's the year. Let's call it year. We will call this expenditure, get it spelled right. That's an integer as well. We hit OK, and we hit OK. And you'll see right away, as soon as I pull this data in, Spotfire won't just give us the data or give us a blank screen. It's going to pop up with our recommended visualizations. All that I have to do now is just click the columns that I want to use, which in this case are all of them. It'll think for a minute, and then it'll pop up with all the types of visualizations that I could use. See a scatter plot, we see a hierarchy. We're going to go ahead and add in a tree chart because that one's nice. And we're going to go to more recommendations to get some other visualizations. And there we go, there's our line chart. That's what I want to add. Close this. We'll see that these guys have been added already. I'm just going to switch these two over so this guy's on the right. For those of you that haven't used tree charts, they're great. They're just like a big pie chart. Each one of these groups is representing the size of some value, and all the different boxes make up 100%. We can also create hierarchies, so we have expenditure groups, and we're going to add in year. And they're nicely labeled already. So once we get to this point, we can just go ahead and hide that legend because it's kind of unnecessary. We can get each one so that it labels which types of group we want. I'm going to go ahead and change my properties here so that it's limited by whatever I mark on my tree chart, so I can do a little bit of data exploration and set this so that all data is shown when I don't have anything marked. And now I can look at the trend over time for my top two groups, I can look at the smallest ones, or I can do a way where I mark my rows and invert them just to filter out those small ones and see where the big guys are. Let's go ahead and also remove this bin. We don't want to auto bin our columns because we're looking at years. And then as you saw in our previous visualization, some of these items, let's go back to our underlying data set. We saw a bit of a switch here. Public expenditure only started in 2011. Looks like that was taken out of the finance group. And children and youth became a subset of the community equality, etc. And all of those funds merged over to children and youth versus the children and equality group. So we are going to use, like we saw in our previous video, we're going to mark these and put them into a group together, but using another new feature where I can click on the legend to mark items. Oh, it would help if I had given myself markings. We'll make a new marking and we'll allow markings. Here we go. All right, children and youth, community equality. Right click, group from marks. We'll call this children, youth, affairs. Now we have our new group, and we'll find our other ones. Let's remember what those were. That was public expenditures and finance. So let's find public expenditure, find finance, and we'll group those as well. And this will just be called public expenditures for simplicity. All right, so now we have our groups nice and logically put together with whatever their most modern name may be. We'll open this up a bit. I am going to duplicate this visualization because I don't want to just look at the overall trend, but I also want to look at the change from year to year. So I'm going to do a really neat feature in Spotfire, and we're going to do multiple scales. This lets us look at each one on its own independent scale so we can look at trends versus the outlying very large values. I can look at change from one versus the other and see that from 94 to about 2008 we saw a general increase in everything, and then after 2008 we saw a bit of fragmentation. Some, like public expenditures, went way down, while others like the social protection and health groups maintained at their 2008 levels forward. Doing a little cleaning up. Let's go ahead. We don't need this legend because it's redundant here. We'll just right click, get rid of our data limiting and line by, and there we go. Now we've got a nice visualization that we can send out to people so that they can explore this data as well and look and see how these different groups change. That only took a few minutes thanks to the recommendation engine, and it let me just get started and kind of explore the visualizations that I wanted to right off the bat without really having to think about the entire roadmap of creating the report before I even put it together. All right, I hope you enjoyed that presentation. Please feel free to contact us at Centelli if you have any more questions or want to see a preview of this application. All right, thank you very much. Bye.